Um, our Big Red Book offers us guidance regarding how other 12-step programs might support our ACA healing journey. From page 125 in the Big Red Book. For adult children with addiction issues, we recommend that you attend 12-step meetings to address those issues as well. While ACA is often the only program for many adult children, ACA is not a replacement for addicts working a program in Alcoholics Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous, Cocaine Anonymous, etc. And so at this time, it's my pleasure to introduce our speaker, who will share for up to 20 minutes. And tonight we have the privilege of having Tammy here. Tammy is from California and has been working her ACA program since 2020 and has also been working her AA program since 2017. And tonight she's going to share with us how that works for her, how she uses the two programs, or what led her to ACA, or however that works. And so with that, Tammy, the floor is yours. And if it's okay, I'm going to go ahead and spotlight you, and that way we'll be able to see you really well. Okay.
Okay, I'm ready.
Good.
Thank you, everyone. I'm Tammy. I'm an adult child, and I didn't do a test run, so I'm not sure, like how long all this would actually take to say. So what I'm going to do is run through the 63 years of my life, like in a nutshell, and kind of like do just basically quickly, and happy to answer any questions of anything that sticks out to anybody. Like Kim said, I've been in AA since 2017, but took me about 3 years to finally get my last sobriety date, hopefully, which was December 26th of 2019. And I've a couple of weeks later, 2 or 3 weeks later, was when I found ACA. So that probably, I feel like ACA has a lot to do with me keeping that sobriety date. And so I'll just kind of go through, like with AA, we do what it was like before the big crash. And then what happened, like what was the big crash in my words, and then what it's like now, and I call that the blessings. So what it was like before everything went wrong. I was born to teenage parents, so babies raising babies. I felt like I was, I said one time I felt like I was doomed from the start. But anyway, all men in my life were alcoholics: dad, grandpa's uncle, cousin. I witnessed and remember parts of domestic violence. That's my earliest childhood memory. Like I was 2.5 or 3 years old, and I feel like that immediately turned me into a people pleaser, a feeling stuffer, and an overeater. I have seen a picture of myself, 3 or 4 years old, holding a can of beer, and dad and whoever else in the background with a big smile on their face. They thought that was just the coolest thing. I don't know if I drank any of it or not. I don't recall reading books or sitting on laps or any kind of affection. I went through two with my mom. It wasn't me, thank goodness. There was 2 divorces, several houses, and back to my biological dad by the time I was 10 years old. Sorry about the glare, that's the dog. I was teased and bullied and even tortured once in school. Both dads were physically abusive to my mom. I have one sibling, 6.5 years younger brother, and in my opinion, he was spoiled and an aggravator. He loved to tease me, chase me, and just, basically bully me, I guess. When my biological dad came to take me on visitations, his idea of that was to put me on the back of his chopper motorcycle back then, and there was no helmet law back then, and he took me to the bar and let me play shuffleboard while he hung out with his barroom buddies, and 9 times out of 10, he got in a barroom brawl. Thankfully, his friends were, there to protect me, I guess. my biological dad was also unfaithful. My mom's, because of the eating issue that started like 2.5, 3 years old, my mom started putting me on diets in 5th grade, which has had a huge effect on my self-esteem and all that good stuff.
Good hamburger.
Thankfully, I found my higher power in the 3rd grade. I felt like my mom was a slave driver. Every weekend, I wasn't allowed to do anything until I helped her clean the house from top to bottom, and my brother didn't have to lift a finger, not even outside. He didn't have to lift a finger even on the outdoor stuff. I left home right away after I graduated high school to go to college in another state. I didn't know why I cried when I started working and the boss would call me into the office, and it wasn't always something bad. It might have just been something, good. But I immediately started crying. That was the fear of the authority figures, which I've learned, along the way. Well, that's what that was. I got good grades, all through high school, and was able to go to 1 year of college, but like a private Christian college. I had to pay my own tuition, and I did. I was just doing my little timer thing here. And then I was at the same job for 32 years, so life was pretty good. Until when this is what happened. This is how everything went bad. I feel like it started when I had gastric bypass surgery in 2007, because they warned us about cross addictions, and I didn't believe them, or that won't happen to me type of thing. And sure enough, I gradually started drinking more than occasionally. um I had chronic pain at work. They said I had two bulging discs or something anyway, and I feel like it was super stress related, because now that I've stopped working, I have a lot less pain, the neck and shoulder type of thing. But anyway, I started taking my pain pills more often than prescribed. I started smoking socially. I was just a huge follower. Lost touch with my higher power. I often share that if I had kept my eyes and my focus on my higher power, I wouldn't have ended up, abusing substances and ending up, in a recovery program. But in the long run, I'm grateful that I did, because I wouldn't have learned all this, about ACA and everything, and why I'm a people pleaser, why was I afraid of authority figures, and on down the list. If you have seen the laundry list, the characteristic traits, I checked off every single one except in where number 13 says, except even though we did not pick up the drink, well, I picked up the drink. So other than that, I checked off every single characteristic trait. So then everything was going along, basically fine, what's that called? Functioning, I was functioning still at that point. I did lose my house to foreclosure in 2011. My husband and I split up in 2004, and I managed to keep it until 2011. That's when my two boys and I moved in with my mom, who she needed help financially also. I believe my boys were about 17 and 20 type of age. Thankfully they were, adults, basically. Yeah, adults, young adults. So while living with my mom, in order to stay the sweet, patient, tolerant daughter, I felt like I had to drink more to stay that way, because I seen her day in and day out when I would come home from work. So definitely stressful home life combined with stressful job. I feel like that led me to drinking more and taking more of the pain pills and everything. I feel like that was part of my downhill slide. I wrote down here, I never had any peace. I used to have it before moving in with my mom because, I would leave work and, I would have my peace at home. I stopped going to church. There was a lot of gaslighting. My mom became an alcoholic and addicted to benzos, and very depressed. Woke up crying, went to bed crying. Always everything she talked about was sad and negative, and that, it just really brought me back down. I started isolating on weekends. She gave me lots of pressure and guilting to take care of the house, maintenance type of thing, upkeep and all that, to the extent of borrowing against my retirement fund to improve keep the house from falling down, basically. So, when I did move in with my mom, the habit of drinking every night after work, started. I actually lived with her for like 7 years. So, I'm not sure how many years into the 7 years, I eventually started drinking in the morning also. And, early 2017 was when I crossed the invisible line of being in control. I called in sick to work the whole week. My mom tells me I was sleeping for 18 hours a day during that week. I was definitely taking the pain pills way more often and obviously drinking more that week. She contacted both of my sons, and everyone was concerned, and so I agreed to go to the rehab that I had previously called. I called, just inquiring about it maybe a month or two before all this happened, and just asking questions and everything, how it worked. And so I agreed to go. It was like a 35-day inpatient program. I went back to my mom's house against rehab's advice. I was too worried about my mom's well-being. I'm so 30, I was 35 days sober, obviously, when I went back to my mom's house. I made it like another month. Before I relapsed, it was Mother's Day, and I felt like I deserved a treat. And so I just found whatever there was to drink. It wasn't my drink of choice, but there was some old bottle of something in the cupboard, and that started my relapse. I kept drinking. I was not a closet drinker before, but I became a closet drinker at that time. And, I think I was hiding it from my mom. I don't know, how much she knew. But anyway, I became an agoraphobic for 3.5 months. I couldn't leave my bed or my bedroom or the house, for like 3.5 months. It was even a huge chore just to brush my teeth. And it would, maybe once a week when I couldn't stand it anymore, I would get out the peroxide and the baking soda and just scrub like I was scrubbing a dirty pan, it is scrubbed away. I ended up having some dental work, because of that. The sad thing is my mom didn't even try to find out how to help me. She didn't know how to help me, but she didn't even try to find out how to help me. The only thing that I don't know what would have happened if a friend, what helped me was a friend. She told me she was going to come take me to meetings, and she was not even in AA. So she spent a good hour or so every week, probably a couple hours every week to come take me to the meetings. And I really don't know where I would be if that hadn't happened. So into the blessings, what it's like now. With my living situation, when I was living at my mom's house for those 7 years, I felt like we would be living in that situation until one of us passed away. I felt like I was stuck, like, because she couldn't make it financially without me, type of thing. And So anyway, and I had very little courage when I started AA, and I used to, when we said the Serenity Prayer, grant me the courage to change the things I can. It's like I'll never have the courage to change the things I can, but 14 months after rehab, my higher power, gave me that courage to move out of my mom's house. I moved in with my dad for about a year to help take care of him until he passed away of alcoholic related illnesses. These are kind of like the list of the blessings that I've experienced in recovery. My dad passed away in 2019, and so then I moved into a place of my own. I adopted a senior dog of my own. I've stayed clean and sober for almost 5.5 years. I'm no longer full of fear or anxiety. I didn't used to have fear and anxiety before I started having a drinking problem. I feel like I used to be the most roll with the flow type of person. Extremely patient. And the way I feel like I got all the fear and the anxiety under control was getting my higher power back in my life, and finding recovery, AA and ACA, and then the help of my doctor, helping me to get my meds regulated. I have the blessing of seeing my grandkids every week. I was blessed to retire at the age of 55. I'm blessed to be of service and to share what was so freely given to me. I've learned how to say no and set boundaries. I've learned how to play and have fun in my life. Those of you that are familiar with ACA, these are some of the promises that can come true. I got back in touch with my higher power, whom I found in 3rd grade. Higher power helped me distance myself from toxic people. I've learned that I have rights. ACA has at least 23 different Bill of Rights. I feel like ACA has been helping me to stay sober. I believe I had 3 different sobriety dates. Obviously early March of 2017, the beginning of 2018, like January of 18. And then I think the next one was the end of December of 26 of 2019. I wanted to share, where did I put it? I wanted to share just a couple things here, like what AA is not. It's the preamble, AA preamble. Let me see if I can find where I put it. There's it sit right here. Just in case anybody doesn't know, this is what AA is and what AA isn't. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of people who share their experience, strength, and hope with each other that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organization, or institution, does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. And then with ACA, on page 544 in our big red book, it talks about how ACA is a proven program. In my last minute and a half here, it says, as we carry our message to the public, we must remember that ACA is a viable and proven program that lines up nicely with 30 years of clinical and medical research on the disease of family dysfunction. No other fellowship addresses the body, mind, and spirit in the manner of ACA understanding. Then it says, we have a proven solution that brings sure relief and real change. ACA is a way of life that fulfills a person emotionally and spiritually. And then, another blessing is, I get to go to, you know, before getting my anxiety and fear under control, I would have ever even thought of doing this. I get to go to Canada and to the AA World International World Convention during the first week of July. 50 plus thousand, I say drunks. They joke about that, so I don't think they would mind that I said that. I'm speaking about myself, but anyway, never been to Canada, never been to one of the conventions, so I'm excited about that. And I know that I wouldn't have found ACA if it wasn't for AA. I didn't even know ACA existed. So I feel like everything happens for a reason. And even though, I had my bumps in the road, I feel like I've been blessed beyond measure, and I'm grateful to be here, and I'm happy to answer any questions, and thank you for letting me share.
Thank you, Tammy, for sharing. We appreciate you so much. And I'm going to go ahead and take you off the spotlight. And I'm sure that'll feel kind of nice, be packed part of the tribe here tonight. And as Tammy said, she's inviting you to ask questions. You may raise your hand to ask your questions, or you may enter it into the chat if you would like. We can read it for you. And if there's time remaining after all questions have been answered, then we can open up the rest of the meeting time to sharing. Is there anybody that and when you ask a question, you can also just acknowledge Tammy. If there's something that Tammy shared that you really appreciated or resonates for you, we'd love to hear that as well. So who would like to start us off with some questions or acknowledgements for Tammy? Just raise your hand. And we'll set the timer for 3 minutes on you just in case you need to talk for a moment. Shannon, we'd love to hear from you.
Hello, everybody. I'm Shannon. I'm in Los Angeles and I'm ACA. And what I wanted to say is that when I heard Tammy talk about when I heard you talking about not being fearful and lacking, like that you lacked some confidence, and then you definitely regained it or built it, to build the life that you have now. That's extremely very inspiring to me, because I've been paralyzed in a lot of the situations in my life where I don't feel like I don't even feel like I ever had a voice. And so as I'm figuring out how to have one, it does give me hope that I'll still have a nice life. So thank you. And also, you look really pretty.
Thank you. Mina, I see your hand up. Would you like to ask a question?
Yes, thank you so much, Tammy. It was very powerful life story of you, and I'm so glad I could come here and listen to your story. I have a question about your higher power. You said that you found your higher power in 3rd grade, and I would like to know how you found and how that higher power has evolved with you or has stayed the same, and how I want to know how your relationship with your higher power. Thank you.
Thank you, Mina. All of my life, I lived in my hometown, except for the 1 year in college, which was in Texas. And when I was in the 3rd or 4th grade, we lived in Lake Tahoe. And if anybody knows, they call Lake Tahoe God's country. But they had some kind of like vacation Bible school there. And I went to it, and so, my higher power is God, and they taught us about, how we could accept Jesus into our heart, and that how he would be there for us, to take care of us and love us and guide us and, save us. And I feel like that's what saved me through it all, and even though, like I said, even though I took my eyes off of God and thought I could run the show myself type of thing, he was there he was there waiting for me when I was ready to come back. He didn't hold anything against me. He still loves me today as much as he did in 3rd grade or 4th grade. And he's a very forgiving God, and I'm grateful that I know him. So yeah, he's very special to me. Thank you.
Thank you, Tammy. Kay, would you like to ask a question?
Kate, okay, I'm an adult child. Tammy, did you say it's okay to refer to something that you share? Okay. Well, I really appreciate, I didn't know, I texted Tammy and I said, is that meeting I had written down 8 o'clock for my time, and is it 7 o'clock? And she texted back, she never said a word about being the speaker. I knew it was a speaker meeting, but this is the way my higher power works. The reason, and I needed a fellow traveler that I could talk to, and now I'm texting. My son bought me a phone, and so now I can text. But and I know she's heard this so many times, but I've been talking about my pet having to put my cat to sleep. But after that happened, and I said, man, I had a fellow traveler. Okay, so I came into ACA. I was sober 25 years, and then I came to ACA about 2010, and I started having to admit that my mother was violent, that she was frightening, scary lady. She used physical abuse, emotional, verbal. I know so much about this now, and I'm able to talk about it some. But boy, we were religious, and there's a lot of religious abuse. Either you're going to hell or heaven, and it's like all or nothing. That was our thinking, we were taught that. So I went to college, and I started drinking in college, and uh, what I was gonna say though about calling Tammy is that the fellow traveler that I had, we weren't able to connect like we had planned. And then when my cat died, I said, "Oh, I need more help," and I called Tammy, and then she hooked me up with some more meetings. I'd done trait meetings for a few years, so I know the traits backwards and forwards. And I'm like Tammy, I was affected by all of the traits plus some more. Yeah, my mother had me cleaning house, but she also had me accompanying the chorus, and she wouldn't let me quit. And the doctor said I had to quit. My mother wouldn't let me quit, and I had eczema, and I played the organ at church. And my mother had me doing all of this stuff 7 days a week. And it's it's amazing. What I'm finding out is that I would turn into really beautiful young woman in college because the eczema went away. Somebody is timing me off. So anyway, I'm glad I'm here. I'm glad I have you guys. And um, I'm clean, I'm sober, I'm a child of God. And I love myself. Thank you.
Thank you, Kay. And I think we could go ahead and maybe stop the recording here, and then I'll open up sharing. So please keep your sharing focused on